Hello again, this is Brian Copeland talking. Welcome to another edition of Copeland's Corner. As usual, I have a distinguished panel of comics I will introduce to you in just a moment. There's one main thing that we're talking about throughout the country today as we record this on Wednesday the 11th, dropping on Thursday the 12th, and that, of course, the ICE riots and the overreaction of Trump's federal government and the militarization of our country. So we're going to talk about, unfortunately, I got three comics from LA to tell us really what's happening, because it's fascinating how if you watch Fox News or look at Fox News, it's Armageddon. It is just absolute Armageddon in Los Angeles. You look anywhere else, the only problems are really created by the escalation of things, by Trump sending in 4,000 National Guardsmen over the objections of the governor. Normally that is it's up to the governor of a state to request the National Guard. And I was reading, and the last time that was done, that the National Guard was sent into a state over the objections of a governor, was LBJ back in 1965 or 66, the march from Selma to Montgomery. When it began on the Pettit Bridge, the marchers were beaten. They were attacked and beaten by local authorities as well as Klansmen and everybody else. So they said, well, the hell with you. We're not going to stop us. We're going to march again next Sunday. And they asked for George Wallace, the governor, the segregationist governor of Alabama, to send the National Guard to protect them, to make sure they got across the bridge this time. And he refused to do it. So Johnson went over his head and said, fine, they're federalized now. I'm making them do it. And what's happening now is a far cry from that circumstance. Everybody agrees that there is no. When I say everybody, I'm talking about elected officials, former military, police, people who have riot control experience. There's no reason to send in the goddamn Marines. What do the Marines know about crowd control? They are trained to use lethal force. And it's the first time that we've had the Marines on American soil there to potentially attack or kill American citizens, people on our soil. So that's going on. We knew it was going to escalate to more protests, and there are protests all around the country, anti-ICE protests. Austin, Dallas in the last 48 hours. Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, San Francisco, Santa Ana, California. Santa Ana, California, the report is that it was peaceful, and then rocks, bottles, and fireworks were used against law enforcement. Lots of arrests. Chicago, they had a car speed through a crowd. No information yet as to whether or not anybody was injured. I mean, echoes of Charlottesville. In New York, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Seattle, Denver, Washington, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Boston. So it's great to see people out in the streets protesting this, as long as they keep it peaceful, because in my opinion, in the opinion of anybody who's looking and watching, this is what Trump wants. He wants to be able to say that this is an insurrection. If you look at True Social, which I never have, but you see the reports come up, he has been calling these folks insurrectionists since the beginning. And then he can invoke the Insurrection Act, and it's a whole new ball game in terms of taking over this country. I mean, you think he's going to at some point say, okay, we don't need any more, and revoke it. Last time the Insurrection Act was imposed, or enacted, I should say, it was George H.W. Bush during the Rodney King riots, which, okay, that made sense because they were really burning down South Central Los Angeles. So here to talk about it, I got three great comics here from who are currently in Los Angeles: Cathy Ladman, Mike Larsen, and Tony Camin. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you.
Thanks for having us, Brian.
All right. Well, let's start with this. Okay. Well, now I'm going to start with you, Tony. You were telling me you guys are in Los Angeles. Tell me what you've seen.
I'm just going to say we're all a little tired, and thank you for having us. But I'm sure we're all just a little out of it, a little tired, because we've been rioting all weekend and all morning. So please forgive us.
Yeah.
This is the only time I've had off.
Yeah, Cathy, your pill caddy must be going nuts over there.
Oh my
God. All right, so tell me how, because if you watch a split screen of Fox News and the legitimate media, people are going about their business in Los Angeles. It's like not much is go other than the places where other protests have sprung. A couple other protests have sprung up as a result of the escalation of the initial protest, but it's not anything like it. However, if you turn on Fox News, it's Armageddon. And we should thank the president because he is protecting the people of Los Angeles because he refuses to see Los Angeles burned to the ground. So tell me the reality. What part of LA are you in, Mike?
Well, right now I'm at Tony's house, but I've been in Westwood the last few nights. I live out in Ohio now, so I come out. But I always say it's not just Fox News. CNN, they're covering it because it's still a spectacle, even though the poor reporters are standing, on the front line, and all they can say is, okay, the police are moving us another block now. There's nothing to report, but they're trying to gin it up for them as well, because it's something to show on their screens.
Well, in fairness, as somebody who worked in news departments over the course of a couple of years, there are certain stories that you may not want to cover that you have to. That it's remiss.
Sure.
You're remiss if you don't. If somebody turned on CNN right now and they had something else on, they were covering some other story or they had a cooking demonstration, people would go, what? Wait, what the hell's going on? And they're going to flip. It's like the Lacey Peterson case. It's all back in the news and everything. In the very beginning, there's so many reporters right now who had to cover that case, who didn't want to recover that case, but had to follow Scott Peterson to In-N-Out Burger because everybody else was. And if they're not, then they look, out of place. But you're right. You're right. Cathy, where are you?
I'm in Santa Monica.
Okay, so you're a ways away. You're a ways away.
Not that far from, pretty close to Westwood. And I heard that ICE was on Main Street last night.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I got in a message on some, I don't even know what app it was, but no, I know what it was. It was that nosy app, neighbor.com.
Next door.
Next door. Excuse me.
Next door.
Right.
Good. Glad to know that you're up to date on what's happening in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Neighbor.com.
But I see no reason to think that anybody would make that up, but but none of this surprises me. It's just another lie. It's just constant lying.
Well, it's a step towards authoritarianism, and yet another one, but a big one, because the U.S. military and the National Guard have never been used like this before.
Right.
Interesting piece that the Washington Post has this morning about how Gavin Newsom has now become the face of the resistance. You agree with that? And what do you think of Newsom's stance?
I think he's. I'm glad he's saying what he's saying, and he's got a very, very strong presence, and I like that he's suing Trump. Mm-hmm. And I like that he doesn't call him president all the time. I like that he's honest about it and he calls him Trump.
Yeah.
And which is the nicest thing you can call him, I think. I am grateful for his voice now. I really am.
Tony?
I think it's needed.
I agree with Cathy. Like, I think he comes through sometimes and he's very articulate and he's stepping up, generally, I think he's a little bit of a cocaine vampire, he's so slick and he's just, for some reason, I voted for him, all the recalls, but it's just like, I still think I just see a real slick, greased back hair.
Don't hate him because he's beautiful.
But it is beautiful. But that's why I think he's a vampire. It's too good. But he's our guy. I just think, I wish he was a little more real.
Well, I should mention before you step in, Mike, just in the interest of disclosure, I have known Gavin since he was first appointed to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors back in the 90s. That's how far back I go with Gavin. I've known him for a long, long, long time. And I just need to say that in the interest of disclosure. Okay, Mike, you were going to say?
Yeah, I think he's stepping into the situation, but he also has kind of had to repair kind of the faux pas he made of doing this dance with the right over the last 6 months, thinking that was going to help him. And I think he sees this as an opportunity to, repair some of that a little bit with the base. So, he's certainly stepping into it. And like I say, when right is on his side, there's no one more eloquent. When he has an argument to win, he's just the best at it. So,
well, what's fascinating about him? I'm talking to what's that, Cathy?
Go ahead, sure.
Okay, well, what's fascinating about him when he speaks is he's dyslexic, so he's got to memorize everything. Every word, every speech, every fact, anytime he's speaking in public, he's not looking at a prompter. I mean, he's got to memorize all of that stuff.
I mean, do you think a lot of it's off the cuff? I mean,
I
does
do.
He memorize the bones of the speech and then he articulates within that?
Well, from what I understand, he memorizes everything. In terms of a speech or in terms of like bullet points for a debate.
Right.
But I don't know exactly. I've never asked him what his process is, so I'm curious about that. Well,
okay.
In fact, he's going to do this podcast at some point.
That's great.
Not
that's
this
great.
week.
And Brian, you have the most insight to him. What I mean, without getting in trouble, he's your friend. But like, what is your general impression? You think he's doing a good job, or?
I do think he's doing a good job. There are things that he's done that I haven't liked. Well, I mean, the biggest thing is you're right about the last 6 months, hosting this podcast. It's like, why? Number one, why are you hosting a podcast? Number two, why are you hosting a podcast and giving a voice to Steve Bannon and people like this? Why are you doing this? The whole idea, when Obama was president and kept trying to reach across the aisle and kept trying to come up with bipartisan bills, something that we can all get together on and do for the American people. And every time he would get his hands slapped, that showed that you can't, I want to be able to understand them and hear both voices. That means absolutely nothing. That means absolutely nothing. So, and I will tell you, it's when it comes to Gavin, I don't believe I can be objective because he's a friend.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. I also think there are a lot of variables that are inherent to being a politician that sometimes are a bit unctuous and look self-serving because frankly, a lot of them are self-serving. But I don't think I'm naive. I mean, maybe I am, but I really think he is angry now. I really think he's pissed off.
Did you see that MSNBC interview that he gave?
Yes.
Did you see that? And for those watching or listening who haven't seen it, the big takeaway from this is that Trump lied. Surprise. He says that he talked to Trump on Friday by phone. They had a 20-minute phone conversation. It was very cordial, very polite. Gavin said that he kept wanting to talk about LA and Trump wants to talk about other things. Then either later that night or on Saturday morning, that's the first time he brings up the National Guard, claims he tried to get Newsom to do it. Newsom wouldn't do it, so he's going to do it. And he calls him Gavin Newscum and all of this kind of stuff. And so he says, so Gavin says, Newsom says in the interview that the first time I've heard anybody call him out, any sitting politician call him out this way, he said he is a stone cold liar. Which we all know. Well, not all of us. I mean, 51% of us know. And I
think more now.
You think?
I think more now. Yeah, I do. And I'm just kind of pissed off that it took them so long. But
yeah, that's the thing. It took like Trump throws that around every day, and we're finally getting to that.
But also, I think a lot of his supporters know he lied. They don't care. I mean,
they don't care.
They're liar. I don't think anyone is thinking he's a choir boy. I mean, they're like,
they're our salesman. He's my salesman. He's my lawyer.
Yeah. He's a racist. He's
my fictor.
Everything. But
he needs to lie to get things done.
Right, and he's lying in the direction I want.
He's cutting through the BS with the lies.
But I believe that I believe that there are many people who did vote for him that are regretful.
Mike?
There are. And if I hear one more person say that this is not what I voted for, I'm going to hurl. It's like,
I know, because it is what they voted
you
for.
Voted for.
It's exactly, that's the thing, is like, he ran on this stuff. He ran all this. The Department of Education. Okay, yeah, we don't need that. All this stuff, and what happens? Like, oh, you're doing it? Like, you want to be a school kid in Mississippi, right? Oh God,
not even Mississippi. I read this right before we began to record. That ICE has a quota. Did you know that? ICE has a quota.
Mhm.
When Stephen Miller is issued a directive, they have a quota, and I guess they've had it for the last week, that they are to make a minimum of 3,000 arrests
Yep.
a day.
Yep.
3,000 arrests a day. And that's why you're seeing them show up at Home Depots. That's why people have been yanked out of gas stations, yanked out of work, children yanked out of school. And just the employers are freaking out, because when there's a raid at their business, whether they arrest people or people get away or whatever, those employees don't come back. They do not come back. And so it's unconscionable when you think about how they're doing this. I mean, yeah, I saw something, and again, I'm like you, Cathy. I look at so many sites and apps and whatnot that I forget where I saw something. Most of them I try to write down if I think it's important. But what they're doing is, in some cases, is they'll swarm a workplace. They don't have any badges or identification or a name tag on. They're
wearing masks, right?
Grab people and throw them in the back of a van and take off. And so kids come home from school, mom and dad aren't there, or parents are sitting at home and Johnny doesn't come home from.
I mean, this is very Germany in the 30s kind of shit.
Well, a meme that I saw that is it's scary, it's so true, is that we've gone from a country that would have hidden Anne Frank to a country that would have turned Anne Frank in.
Mm-hmm.
Would have told them where she was.
But in America's best interest.
Yeah, the best interest of the country.
It's amazing how you see populism at work, because it's him. I don't think it's going to transfer to Van. I really don't. I think it's him. You saw it with DeSantis try to get in there, and it's great. You could see it how it happened in Germany. Like okay, these steps, you get slowly people behind you. It grows. You use these wedge issues.
Mm-hmm.
Immigration. Is it really immigration? It's not really. It's beyond that. It's about he's being king. He's so it's like a playbook. And you see it like, whoa, this can't happen again. It's mind-boggling.
But it does repeat itself. And,
yes.
I'm so glad that people are like raising their voices and going to march and my friend Jessica Craven. I don't know if you follow her on Instagram, but she's amazing, and she has a very big following, and she was right downtown yesterday, the day before, and she said, this is what's going on here. There is nothing else going on here. There are people dancing, there are people eating. I mean, there was nothing that he painted a picture of was going on there. And, I think one of the most telling things that he ever said was, I love the uneducated. This was in response to when Hillary Clinton did Basket of Deplorables.
Yeah.
And he said, I love the uneducated. And he does. And he wants people to be uneducated, because then they can't make intelligent decisions.
No, the right is a lot of the right's anti-college now, because they say it's indoctrination. It's indoctrination with intelligence and ideas.
Right. Which is dangerous for them.
It's very dangerous for them. You look
at a lot of these in these countries that have these totalitarian, they come up from rural, uneducated areas, whether it's Iran, Afghanistan, like you see like the Taliban, whatever. They started as like our version of what we call hillbillies, or they're like the they are that. It's like the uneducated, basically,
Well, and one of the attacks on higher education, because I work at a university now, is they want to. One of the reasons they're fighting DEI is because they don't believe that working class kids should go to college. Working class kids should go get a minimum wage job, so that they take those jobs that the immigrants have. So they don't like the, for all of us, I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. That was a major moment in my family history. They don't want that.
No, they don't want people to better themselves, because then they won't accept what they're being handed.
And even if it was dry, we do count that, Mike. Good job.
Mike, where do you go? Where do you teach? What college do you teach?
I work at Ohio State now, which is why I'm out in Columbus.
In Columbus, okay. My friend lives in Athens.
Were you playing? Are you playing the
Athens is
Bone?
a great town.
You playing the Funny Bone in Columbus?
He's living at the Funny Bone. He lived there.
Very long engagement at the Bone in Columbus. Yes.
I used to play that. Oh, it's been years since I played that room. I like that room. That's a nice room.
Now, Columbus actually has a very cool little real organic comedy scene now with 2 or 3 full-time tiny little storefront clubs.
Oh,
It's
cool.
pretty exciting, actually.
Those
Should
rooms
go
are my
back.
favorite.
I'm from Akron. I'm originally from Akron. I left when I was 6 and we came to California, but
Right.
I used to go back and play Cleveland, the Improv at the Flats. I guess that's closed. That's not there anymore, as I'm told. And the Akron Canton Club and all of that. But where exactly is Kent State? I've been thinking about Kent State ever since this became militarized in Los Angeles.
I think it's in Kent.
Yeah, there you go. It's in Kent, Ohio. Kent State is probably about 25 miles south of Cleveland, maybe.
Okay.
So it's up that away, northeast Ohio, kind of actually near the Akron Canton area there.
Okay, so I've been thinking about that ever since the National Guard was sent into.
Well, and that's it. Kent State was all just because one 18-year-old boy that was given a gun and put in a scary situation made a bad decision. That's all it takes, right?
That's
all
right.
the Marines and National Guard, it only takes one of these frightened children that we've given guns and ginned up with hate, one of them to make a mistake, and everyone follows suit. So
and hundreds of Marines, hundreds of armed Marines out there in their camouflage and everything else. It's just, it's something really bad is going to happen.
But I really wonder, what do these National Guards people and Marines think about what they're doing? I can't imagine that they all believe what they're doing.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's the whole thing.
I know it doesn't.
I'm saying if you have a family member, and I've got a niece who is going to be a 20-year lifer in the U.S. Navy. I've got a nephew who was in the Marine Corps. I've got another nephew who just got out of the Army. They brainwash you in boot camp, from what I understand. They brainwash you in boot camp, and so that you are, they break you down. So that's the whole point of boot camp, aside from getting you physically fit and training you to use certain weapons and survival techniques and the like, is they break you to respect authority and to obey orders without question. Now, there are some people who don't do that, and in which case, a lot of times these people are asked to leave. Other times they're put in Leavenworth and then asked to leave. But there is protection. I've seen floating around some phone numbers that people can call who are in the service who believe that they are being ordered or asked to follow an unlawful order. And you would have cover.
To whom does this? Who answers the phone?
It goes to you want to be fired. You want a dishonorableddischarge.com. It goes the front line goes right.
So it's. I don't know. There's a video going around of this protester, white protester, just reaming the Marines, yelling at them and very articulately talking about, is this what you want your kids to say? This is wrong. This is not right. There's no reason for you to be sitting there in camouflage, and I'm paraphrasing, in camouflage and with weapons of war in our community. That this is not right. What are you going to go home and tell your kids? How are you following orders that tell you to do this? We are here just exercising our Fifth Amendment right our First Amendment rights to express ourselves and to protest. And you're sitting there with weapons of war. So if you get a chance to see this guy, see it. If you see this floating around, because it's like, yeah. So, as I said, something bad is going to happen. You're going to have a situation in one of these protests. And again, this is what Trump wants to be able to say. America was exploding. I had to invoke the Insurrection Act in order to keep everything under control.
It's going to be like a Gulf of, what was the Gulf of Tonkin? Yeah, where it's like the littlest, the fake. There's going to be a lot of smoke on the street, and there'll be a shot, and I'll be all right. Then they win it. It'll be a Trump. Mm-hmm. It's already blown way out of proportion.
Oh,
completely. Well, here's what my fear is, and the probability of how this happens is, with all these protests all over the country, there's got to be one idiot who throws a Molotov cocktail at the authorities, or as I mentioned at the beginning, in a couple of these places, you get people throwing bottles and stuff at the military law enforcement. You're not going to be able to fight the Marine. You're unarmed. You're not, and even if you were armed, you're not going to be able to fight the Marines at the Marines.
Right, it's a stupid move, and it's a stupid decision. It
doesn't accomplish anything. And I'm just curious too. Like a lot of these National Guard people, I don't know where they're drawn up from, but aren't they usually from the area? They're California National Guard, right?
Yeah, they're all California.
So they have their neighbors, and these are the people who are protesting, I would imagine, in some cases.
They're people with regular jobs.
This is a weekend. This is a weekend, 1 week in a month, and then they got to
pull off their jobs.
So that's an interesting dynamic, because these aren't like DC flown in. These are people of the area.
But all of this is leading to Saturday for the big parade, and Trump wants that split screen of his Il Duce moment with the tanks rolling by while Los Angeles burns. And that's his big production that he wants.
Yeah, he's wanted it for years. If you read Jim Mattis's book of his time serving, what was he? I forget what his exact role was.
Department of Defense, or
is that what it was? Was it the Defense Department he was leading?
Mad Dog Mattis.
James Mattis.
Our national security director. I forget exactly what his title was, but he a lifetime, 3-star general, I guess. Lifetime military. And when Trump came back from, I think it was France, Paris, or something, where he saw one of these parades, that's when he came back all jacked up to do one, and talked to Mattis about it. And Mattis said that he told him, "I'd rather drink poison." He goes, "I'd rather drink poison than do that." And he makes a really good point that the United States is the most powerful nation militarily in the history of the world. And what this is dictatorship. And this is, you don't need to show the world how strong we are. They know. And he said that's like a lion. A lion doesn't have to go around telling people, "Hey, I'm a lion." You look at a lion and so this is just, it's Trump, jerking himself off, quite frankly. Yeah. And now here's another thing that I've read, and I really hope this comes to pass, is there was some travel advisory individual who called a bunch of hotels in Washington and tried to book for Saturday for a party of 15 and wanted to check availability. And basically everywhere he called, they had plenty of room to accommodate a party of 15. So if, in fact, there was going to be a huge turnout, those hotels would be booked. You would not be able to get 15 rooms at this late date in order, and especially in almost every hotel in the D.C. area. So
a huge turnout for his parade.
Huge turnout for his parade.
Fair, a lot of MAGA drives Winnebagos.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And that's another thing, too, that just I want to hear people continue to repeat and yell from the mountaintops. So let me get this straight. People peacefully protesting in Los Angeles require you to call in 4,000 National Guardsmen. However, you sat on your ass in front of a TV on January 6th. When there was a real threat and people were really violent and people were really getting killed.
Well, because he wanted it. Of course, he wanted that to happen.
But I've heard few people make that commitment.
And also, those guys all got off the hook.
Yep.
Except
for one woman. Did you hear about that? The old woman, the granny, who is refused the pardon?
The pardon. Yeah.
Yeah. She realizes
on what
that
ground?
Pardon?
How is she? On what grounds is she refusing?
She says she deserves the punishment. Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. No.
Oh wow.
Oh my God.
That's what she said.
That's so ethical.
She's given an interview. She's given several interviews, and she said, "That's it. And I'm wrong. I was wrong. Trump. We did what Trump told us to do. We were wrong. He's a liar. We should never have done that. And I am not going to get out because he is letting me out because I deserve the punishment I got because I committed the crime of which I was convicted."
Wow.
Yeah.
You vote for her for something?
I know.
No, she's a felon.
Oh, right. No, you can vote for felon. Quick. Yeah, a felon would never be go anywhere.
Hey, I'm interested in seeing what happens in DC as far as the No King's Day protest.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the one here in LA.
Me too.
Are
you going downtown?
Yeah, I think that's a big one, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
I remember how good that woman's march back in January after the first Trump
Oh
administration. That
Yes.
was like,
Yeah.
it was
I was in
giant.
New
And I felt
York
like it
then,
really
yeah.
made, and it felt good to be around. And I thought maybe we have a shot at just surviving this because so many like-minded people and great music too, by the way. And it was like it was, and I thought that was just it was so peaceful and great. There was
Mhm.
there was nothing.
Nice
Mhm.
hats.
A lot of chicks, a lot of chicks.
Nice hats.
It's all
Well,
about
that
the
was hopeful too.
accessories,
So
folks.
And
this is the
there's
first one
like
I'm going to
50,000
since.
people in DC.
It's the first one I'm going to since, and it's like it's so much more now laser focused and worse than that one.
Oh
That one
my
had some
God.
hope and joy. This is like holy shit. We just want to survive.
Yeah.
This is existential.
Mhm. It
Yes.
is. It really is. And again, here's the fear. The fear with all these lawsuits and everything else. He's got the court. I mean, every once in a great while, the court throws democracy a bone, and will rule against him and try to rein him in a little bit, and then they'll make 3 or 4 more rulings that just grant him more authority to do whatever the hell he wants and completely disregard the court without any ramifications whatsoever.
Right.
So it's it is existential. And now that he's got the military, the fact that the commanding officers of whoever he had to the head of the Marine Corps or the commanding officers went ahead and followed what is probably an illegal order. In all likelihood, sending the U.S. Marines in there,
Yeah.
it's an illegal order, and you have a duty to disregard or refuse to follow illegal orders. Sent troops anyway, that doesn't bode well. And so we can protest and yell and scream all that we want. We can chant and hold up signs, but they got M16s. They got guns.
Brian,
You
you're
know?
not making me feel much better.
You know?
And I thought that's what this was about. I thought you were supposed to
Oh,
make
hold
me
on,
feel
Kathy.
better.
I got some edibles here for you.
Take my
Ryan,
hand
all
and
I know is
let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
I got
Right.
my check from George Soros today, so I'm going to
Yeah.
go. And he also made me a very nice sign. So
Yeah, I'm using my old WGA strike signs.
Are you? I'm going to meet up with the WGA group on Saturday. Is that what you're doing?
do they have a
Oh no, but I'll look into it.
What are
Yeah.
they doing? What are they doing? Are they
They're
protesting?
they're just gathering a group together so they can all hang together at the protest.
And we're gonna do some sign punch up, a little bit of sign.
Yeah,
punch.
yeah, of course.
Put a
What
button
do you
on that
What do
thing.
you think? A shift here, again talking about authoritarianism and how he's again following Hitler's playbook, by taking over the Kennedy Center and they're trying to they're going to vote to defund PBS and NPR and cutting all of the grants that have already been awarded to Berkeley Rep, lost a
Yep.
ton of money here up here in the Bay Area. Marin Shakespeare Company, they lost a grant that they had already been approved
For all their
that they're calling
controversial
about.
content at the Berkeley Rep and the Shakespeare Company.
Yeah, all kinds of it. All kinds of it. But the thing is, Hitler took over. Hitler controlled the arts because the arts are the greatest form of protest. The arts are the greatest form of protest. The arts are what make people think. The arts are about spreading ideas. How much trouble do you think that the arts are in under the administration?
Well, I think that freedom is in trouble. And once freedom is in trouble, anything that's expressive is in trouble.
And there's the fight that we do in the given day, but so much just do arts become less of even a possibility for kids to even consider that that's even a thing, Now
that the culture is anti-academic and anti-art, it'll be all like, go to a trade school or go learn how to.
It's like, all of us, like people think of like arts, you're either George Clooney or you're a starving actor, but there's the vast majority of people like us who the greatest thing we could have done is eked out a middle-class living in the arts, the hardest thing in the world, and somehow
pulled it off.
We're able to do this, and I'm just concerned that those as meager as those opportunities were for us, that even that isn't going to exist for people, So what is it, 20 years from now?
Just making a living, not even with fame, just eking a living, doing what you want to do in the arts.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, historically meaning going back to 2016 forward, for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, the actors and performers who supported Trump openly were pretty much all washed up has-beens. The Kid Rock, James Woods, Scott Baio, Kevin Sorbo, Dean Cain, people like this. And now it just boggles my mind how many powerful and more respected people are bending the knee to him. Broke my heart to see Sylvester Stallone introduce him at some event or rally or something.
What's with Kevin Costner?
I don't know. I don't know about Costner. Did Costner do something with him?
But he's always been a Republican, Costner.
I saw that he.
Also, I find his acting a little stiff.
I saw something about him being in touch with Trump to tell him to pull back on something. I guess I wasn't aware that he was to the right like that.
Yeah, I didn't know at all. The other one is Tim Allen. Tim Allen.
I've known that for a long time.
Yeah, well, he was never been quiet about the fact that another convicted felon, by the way. People
yes, another.
Also just
time for dealing cocaine.
Also, just another great guy. He's just supportive of better comedy. Doesn't
no wonder his neighbor never showed his face.
To infinity and beyond. To infinity
the salt
and
of the earth guy, Tim Allen.
It's
you say everyone's washed up, but Trump does have Rob Schneider. Let's remember.
Oh, that's right. When is Deuce Bigalow 3 coming out? When is that soon? Is that coming up soon? I'll tell you a story about. I had Snyder on radio. I came up with Rob.
Well, he's from
I came up with Rob. Rob is from Emeryville, I believe.
I was in San Bruno.
I'm pretty sure he's from Pacifica.
Yeah,
because Jeff Wills is also from Pacifica.
And his mom was on city council in Pacifica.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I came up with Rob, and he was always a reasonable. I never would have predicted this at all. So I had him on radio one time during the 2016 campaign, and he actually broke some news. A couple of news outlets picked it up that he'd said on my show that he was a host when Trump owned the either Miss USA or he owned Miss USA and owned Miss Universe, and I can't remember which of those two. Rob said that he was a judge, and basically he said Trump told him who to vote for. That Trump came in and told him, we don't want her. Who are you leaning towards? Nah, we don't want her. We don't think that she's the right one. Vote for this one.
I don't see how any thinking person can look at what's going on and look at Trump and think these are great ideas. These are great ideas. It doesn't compute. I wouldn't rely on the opinion of anybody who looks at that and thinks that's cool.
That it's okay. Well, and the fact that there's so much that's frightening here, and there's so much. The two things that scare me the most is what they've done to the FAA and what they have done to the CDC and to our scientists. There's normally a CDC. I believe it's a CDC that holds the meeting every year to decide, to look at data. Meeting of scientists and doctors to look at data and to determine what flu is going to hit us next flu season, so they develop a vaccine that is targeted toward that flu. And my understanding is the way they do it is that it starts in Australia, and they look at what flu is in Australia, and they try to figure out how it's going to mutate by the time it gets to us in the U.S. like 8 or 9 months later. Well, for the first time in 30 years, that meeting was not held. Under Kennedy, that meeting was not held. So we are not going to have, in all likelihood, a flu vaccine. So you're going to see infants die. You're going to see old people die. We're not going to have an updated COVID vaccine.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so that's the stuff that scares me. Measles was a dead disease. Measles was a dead disease. I mean, I never knew anybody. Yeah, I mean, my grandmother used to tell me about people having, the polio and measles, and I have never known anyone who had polio. I've never known anyone who had measles. Do you? You old enough to remember?
I know somebody who had it as a child.
As a child? Well, but measles, I mean, and so now
I had measles. I mean, everybody I grew up with had measles.
I had measles.
Yeah.
Really?
My dad is
RFK,
though.
Can you tell us how old you are?
I'm 60. I'll tell you how old I'm 61. I had my measles vaccine in 1968, I believe, when I was 4, and I just had to have a booster because if you had your measles shot that early, it's not as effective, and it's not the MMR. So I literally last month had to have a booster.
Well, I'm 69, so I had almost all those things.
And you guys were probably also on a lot of acid and stuff, right? Because it was like 68, 69.
There were a lot of colors,
area, right?
Streaming past my head. Well, actually in Akron. It was Akron when I got my shot.
Okay,
you know what else is? I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was what's his press secretary's name? Kate
Barbie. That's her name.
What Levitt?
I'm sorry. Actually, Barbie thinks more for herself.
Carolyn or
Caroline? Caroline Leavitt? There's something like that. Is that Levitt. It? Levitt.
Yeah.
Levitt.
But they had kids in there asking questions. Did you happen to see that?
No.
I saw the clip.
And one of the kids said, what's the president's religion? And she said, the president is a Christian and he believes in Jesus. And what is that doing anywhere near why is she saying he believes in Jesus? I mean, it's just so annoying.
But it's not true because he thinks he's
Jesus. It's not true at all.
Because he thinks he's Jesus.
Also, it's like the president is Christian and Christian. It's like this.
Right.
I love that picture of him of him praying in church.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's got 6 fingers on one hand.
Yes,
If he set foot in a church, it would burst into flames.
Yeah.
It would burst into friggin' flames. All right, so we're talking about free expression, and I saw this story and went, wow, this is a story from Brazil. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, in a Sao Paulo, Brazil court on Tuesday, a Brazilian comedian by the name of Leo Lins, 42, was sentenced to 8 years, 3 months in prison for charges of defamation and hate speech following a criminal case brought by federal prosecutors in 2023. The charges stem from a 2022 set in which Lenz targeted vulnerable groups. The show, as he targeted vulnerable groups, and then later posted the show on YouTube, where it quickly went viral and had 3 million views and sparked a wave of public backlash. So a couple of the jokes that he told. Here are a couple of jokes he told in this thing. And these are all direct quotes. I'm fat. I love eating and hate working out. How am I going to lose weight? Get AIDS. Don't you love eating everything? Go sleep with unprotected gay men. It'll work eventually. And the hits keep coming. I'm totally against pedophilia. I'm more in favor of incest. If you're going to abuse a child, abuse your own. What's he going to do? Tell his dad? I saw a poll online asking, what do you say after sex? I replied, don't tell your mom and I'll get you a doll. Prejudice to me is a primitive thing that shouldn't exist anymore. Just like indigenous people. Enough already. So the federal public prosecutor's office filed charges under a couple of Brazilian laws related.
Can I just say his act? He would absolutely destroy on Kill Tony.
I was thinking
that. He would own Kill Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, at a MAGA rally.
Yeah.
Maybe all him at the
he would destroy at a MAGA rally.
At the National Press Dinner. Maybe they'll have that. Maybe he'll be the convict that will in 8 years, So they outlawed in Brazil. They have all these anti-racism laws criminalizing the practice, incitement, or promotion of discrimination based on race, color, ethnicity, religion, or national origin. There are like 3 or 4 different laws that they passed. I was surprised. I didn't know that they're a country that has actually criminalized racism since the 50s because the population has 10% that identify as fully Black. and then another 0.8% of the population identifies as indigenous. So here's why it brings up a couple of reasons. One is I have been worried since he got elected about comics who are outspoken. And being comics, I don't have to ask you because I know, comics, especially comics of our generation, we all know, even though it's before we were started, in most cases before we were born, we know Lenny Bruce. We know what happened to Lenny Bruce. We know Lenny Bruce's work. And I have been worried for people like Bill Burr and those who, I mean, yeah, I got a whole stage show that I'm doing now called the Great American Shit Show. That's monologues on life in the age of Trump. And I wonder, are they going to come after me? And it's like, well, no, they're going to get to the high profile people first. And I'm curious as to whether or not, number one, you do anything that is anti-administration. And number two, if you are in any way, shape, or form worried about getting in trouble if you get on their radar. Because there's he's doing stuff like sicking the IRS on people, stuff that Nixon was trying to do, sicking the IRS on people and having them audited. And, going after people with criminal investigations, the FBI director's his lapdog. And even if you're never convicted of anything, even if you're never indicted for anything, you can just be bankrupt in legal fees. They don't have to get you on anything to destroy you. So are you in any way, shape, or form concerned about what it is you say on stage?
I personally do not do a lot of material like that, but I do one joke that implies that I'm talking about Trump and in a very unattractive way. But I think anybody who speaks in public is vulnerable. Of course, they're going to go for the more obvious people first, but then they're going to go for everybody. They're going to go for everybody. They don't want people sharing their ideas and their thoughts and they just don't want it. They don't want anybody
unless they're in support or on the same.
Yes, but right. But I'm saying anything independent of what their platform is. They don't want people to be individuals. That's dangerous for them.
Brian, I've been called out in Ohio, but Ohio is very right-wing government, and we're doing shows benefiting trans kids, and so I have been called out, and there have been, so
wait, back up. Define called out.
I've had people contact Ohio State where I work because there's this big fight against, am I biased somehow? And yes, I am totally biased. But where I think something's going to happen is they're going to go after establishments. They're going to go after a comedy club. They're going to try to take away a liquor license. And they're going to say they're subversive, they're whatever, and they're going to attack small business people. There might be a comic here or there thrown in, but that's the real chilling effect when people just like, I can't afford to be seen with a comic.
I think, and this has nothing to do with comedy, but it's just again how they are the chilling effect they're having on disseminating information. When you look at what ABC News did, the ABC News did the worst thing possible by settling them on that lawsuit.
Embarrassing.
They were right.
Boom.
It was a nothing suit, and the fact that CBS hasn't decided whether or not they're going to try to settle. But the Sherry Redstone, who's the chairman of Viacom that owns CBS, they're looking at doing a big merger, and they need FCC approval. And if they piss off Trump, then Trump will order the FCC not to approve this merger. So, and it's somewhat hypocritical after she stood up at some free speech journalism conference in the last couple of years. John Oliver played the clip and talking about how important it is what journalists do. Yet they are thinking about settling with him over this Kamala Harris crap. And that's what it is. It's absolute crap. And any legal expert that you talk about, any independent legal expert or legal scholar says, it'll be thrown out. There's no there. and they're thinking about paying him money for this. And all that does is it makes you think. It is making news departments and news organizations think twice before they broadcast a story.
And that's terrifying.
Yeah,
that's absolutely terrifying.
And but it's the same things we were talking about with comics. It'll make them, it will make clubs think twice before
anybody who puts out information in any way, shape, or form is being censored now.
It's just it's something.
But isn't there also our heroes, Carlin Pryor, Lenny Bruce, all went to jail for doing comedy. All right.
I don't think Pryor did.
I think Pryor did.
Oh, I thought Pryor got big. But anyway,
did Carlin go to jail?
Carlin did.
Carlin definitely did.
The 7 words.
Yeah, that's right. The 7 dirty words. The whole thing. Yeah. So I'm not saying I want anyone to go to jail for comedy,
but if you want to be a headliner,
seriously. Unless you're releasing crowd work videos, it might be the way to get noticed.
Would any of you be willing to spend a couple of days in jail for something you said on stage?
If they came in because of material I was doing on stage, honestly, absolutely. And I wouldn't like it, but yes.
If the jail had pickleball.
Yeah. I got to tell you, Tony, every time I look at you, more and more I see Barry Williams for the Brady Bunch. So the more I look at first, I go, wow, when did he turn into Barry Williams? Complete and total aside. But it's apparently the comedy community, and I don't know if this is, I'm assuming this is in Brazil, that the comedy, it's fellow comedians in Brazil see the arrest of this comic and the sentencing of 8 years for a set is I'm sorry, that set is despicable.
8 years.
I mean, we've all had bad sets, but 8 years.
Yeah. 8 years, yeah. They're
longer.
I mean, some have haunted me for 8 years.
Some still haunt me. But they say that it's a bad precedent. And I should mention too that Lynn's, the comic, has got a big online following. It's got 3 million Instagram followers, 1.5 million YouTube subscribers. And so they're all hollering in support.
Right.
But the comics have all gotten together. And there's one comic and Brazilian TV host who's quoted as saying, what was comedian Leo Lynn's crime? Telling jokes in a comedy show. And it was a comedy show. It was an audience of 4,000, and where he did this set in 2022, and no reporting that I saw in terms of how it was received. But apparently, he's known for this. And if you follow him, and as I said, it's not someplace I would go. I think that it's not somewhere I would go as a comic. But he's got the right to say it. It's a joke, and if you don't like it, then don't go.
I mean, there are plenty of,
and I wouldn't,
and there are plenty of comics who do material that I think is abhorrent, but I don't think they, belong in jail.
No,
not for 8. I give them 2 years for that set.
Yeah. That's right.
Eight's a little.
But what if you got a
America's Got Talent for that set?
Yeah.
What if you got a stand and go though? That's the question. What if you got a stand?
I think a real good penalty for him is make him do a triple run. Make him do a couple triples. A lot of one-nighters for like 5 years.
All right, I don't have indemnification if he decides to sue. So let's
make him work to theater audiences.
He's out of the business.
What's wrong with theater? I work mostly theater.
No, they're great audiences, but he would die there.
Well, we don't know in Brazil if he would die in a Brazilian theater or not. We know in the U.S. Well, it depends again, even in the U.S.
That's my opinion.
Bring it to West Virginia or somewhere else where you could marry your cousin, and he would probably go.
Are there theaters in West Virginia?
It might be too close to home there.
In West Virginia, what?
It might be too close to home in West Virginia. Like, ooh, ouch,
But like doing an AIDS weight loss joke in 2022 is kind of a serious crime. I mean, those are like 1980 jokes.
But only a stand-up comedian world crime. And it's a misdemeanor.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's not stealing's a felony. Just having bad taste is a misdemeanor.
40 is beyond the time period where it's
there was
being stuck in the 80s. That's what it is. It's an '80s joke, you know. When's his leg warmer reference coming up? Was my next thought.
I remember one time I was doing a club, this is years ago in South Carolina, and they were rolling up the restaurants early that day because there was going to be a Klan march. And at first I thought, well, that's terrible. And then I thought, no, this is good. It should be out in the open. This is despicable, and it should. Then it reminds me of that. I think it was it Langston Hughes, that poem, "What Happens to a Dream Deferred."
Yeah, I believe so.
You know, because anything hidden gets more powerful. I think everything should be out in the open, but nobody should be arrested for free speech.
No, I agreed. And you know, I'll tell you again, another aside, something that amazes me is I'm writing a crime novel series. My second book just came out last month.
Oh, that's so cool.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm working on the third in the series right now that deals with how the theme of it is everything I do. It's around something that's real, you know, on an issue that's real. The first was about the shooting of African Americans who are unarmed. The second one is really about the difference between what happens when a white woman goes missing and a woman of color goes missing. So the third one is about how the suburbs treated people of color after the Second World War. And I was really surprised to, you know, in my research to have found out how big a presence the Ku Klux Klan has historically had in California. I mean, because we think of the Klan, we think of Mississippi and Alabama and Tennessee and places like that. We don't think of California. And I found out that, you know, where the largest Klan gathering in history, the largest recorded Klan gathering in history in the 1920s, 10,000 Klansmen from all across the country. They had like a Klan convention. You know where it was?
My house.
Spoiler. Thanks. Your granddaddy, you found his sheets?
Where was it?
Napa.
Whoa!
Oh my God! And
Napa,
it's so
California.
expensive.
We want good wine. We want a big event with a lot of good wine.
But only the white.
White wine.
I was going to say only white wine. Because red wine, you can't get the stains out of the sheets.
Well, the La Crescenta neighborhood of Glendale,
infamous white enclave up there,
was a very famous. And when I lived in Glendale in the early '90s. Every year there would be flyers left at the high schools for the Klan up in that part of Glendale. So it was still, you know, there was quite a bit of that. I mean, there still is.
I don't live there now, but when we first moved back to LA in Burbank, it still had a little, like the Burbank page was like FBI investigated it. Like it had some overtones of, you know, that's a sundowner city. And it's a stronghold of conservativeness and stuff. So it's like it's odd to find these pockets. I think you're gonna find them anywhere you go.
Oh, they're all over the place, over the place. And a lot of it, again, it was years and years and years ago. But Rachel Maddow, I'm name dropping. Rachel Maddow told me she went to Castro Valley High School, and Castro Valley is I live about 10 miles from Castro Valley, and she told me that she was class of '97. At Castro Valley High. And she said that the skinheads were recruiting out in front of school when she was there. They were out front recruiting as students came out. And she said that they had an active Klan chapter well into the 1990s. Well into, I never knew, and I never heard or saw anything, or apparently they're not out in the open. They're not out, you know, if they're there, I'm told there's there still. But they're not out in the open. They're not out wearing sheets and burning crosses.
It's like you think when you picture, you think, oh, it's a past in the South.
Yeah.
Horses, a big cross burning. Oh, we're all past that. Even if you're probably racist, you're not going to be a Klan.
They're just the Patriot Front or the Proud Boys.
There's a different thing. But there still is also a Klan. You know, it's just like
how about when the Nazis
OG racists.
Yeah, I think if there's going to be differences in people, there will be hatred for no reason of that, whatever it is. I think just by that, and it will be obviously the dumbest element will just not like you blame things. You see how we blaming things on you just blame your problems on the devil, or you blame them on the immigrant. You blame things, and I just think it's just a human nature of the less intelligent people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it was Martin Luther King who said that if you take an ignorant white man and you convince him and you convince him that the lowest white man is still better than any black man, then you're able to get them in there. You tell this ignorant, unemployed, low-skilled, uneducated white man that he's better than a black doctor. He's got to believe you. I mean, he's got to believe that he is, and in order to enforce his supremacy, they do what they do.
That Indian doctor is taking his job. Even though he's
that's a black job. That's a black job.
So no one minds when AI does it, but
No, but where the torches around the those who are behind the
who's really taking
rebels.
the jobs,
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so we are at the end of the podcast. So just quickly, Cathy Ladman, where can folks see you?
Folks can see me in LA at Hermosa Comedy and Magic Club. And I'll be in Nantucket at the end of July, which I'm really looking forward to.
Have you been here before?
I've never been.
Me either. I've always wanted to go to Nantucket.
Yeah, I've
heard so many limericks. I've heard so many limericks, but I've always wanted to go.
Yes, I've heard the limericks too. I'll let you know if they're true.
That poor dead sex worker. I want to know how.
This is so inside baseball. Mike, where can folks see you? You're in Columbus right now.
Tomorrow morning, I fly back to Columbus, and on Saturday, I will be working the main stage at the Pride Parade, which will also probably turn into a massive immigration Trump parade. But
and you're just trying to get fired from a university gig, apparently. You're just trying to have people.
I'm not good with office jobs.
And Tony, where are you working?
Tomorrow I'll be at the Improv Thursday night.
Which one?
In Hollywood.
On Melrose.
On Melrose, yeah. And then also I'm the new co-host of Laura Keitlinger's podcast, What We Thought Would Happen.
Oh, cool.
On Apple, and she's just the best, and we're having a great time. So
that's great. I love her.
Yeah.
All right, Tony Camin, Mike Larsen, Cathy Ladman. Thanks for doing this, guys. I really appreciate it.
Oh, that was a great talk. Thanks for having us, Brian.
All right, come back again,
so
okay?
Much, Brian.
All right, if you like what it is that you saw here on YouTube or that you heard wherever you listen to your podcast, you can support us in a couple of different ways. One, of course, is by telling everybody you know, any way you know about us. Send them the link and tell them what an entertaining and educational program this is. Other thing you can do is go to your podcast provider and leave us a 5-star rating. 5-star review, because it helps people to find the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, I am requesting that you please subscribe, because when we get enough subscribers, then we can do this live as opposed to recording it the day before. And I like to do it live because that way I can get the audience involved. We'll set it up so that you can send in your emails and we can address them during the podcast itself. So if you would do those things, they would help us out a lot. We are at show number, I think we're around 240 shows or something we've done with this podcast. So, help us out for the next 240. We'd appreciate that. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll check you out next week. Until then, be kind to your neighbor. He knows where you live.